This podcast is hosted on podhome.fm, the most modern podcast hosting platform. Podhome offers unlimited episodes and podcasts, and unlimited use of Podhome AI, which generates transcripts, clips, chapters, title suggestions, show notes, and much more. And all of that for just $15.99 a month or $185 per year. That's a steal. So go to podhome.fm and start your 30-day trial now. And enjoy the show with Joe.
Transmitting live from the Asylum Studios, deep in the bowels of Southwest Texas, it's the Joe Rooz Show. The show where we talk about anything and everything. Where nothing is sacred, nothing is watered down, and nothing is PC.
All righty. Hey, folks, it is Friday, the 27th of March, 2026. I am Joe Rooz, and it is great to be with you once again, transmitting live, as always, from the Asylum, and of course, doing the very best we can to bring you the best quality talk radio we can muster without all the bluster. Welcome to the Joe Rooz Show. Finally, mother flippin' Friday. Telling you, I thought the week would never come to an end. This has been one of those weeks, man. One of those weeks. Hope you guys enjoyed your Thursday night. We were not here with you Thursday night. Our guest that we had lined up was unable to make it, so we took the night off. Not too bad. It was nice. I got to sleep a little bit. It was great. When I tell you great. Now, I've been binge watching the original Star Trek series, and I've been, kind of involved in all of that stuff. And don't get me, I am a Trekkie. I've always been a Trekkie, growing up. Trekkie. And I'll tell you though, rewatching some of the original series stuff has been a trip. It really has. I've really, really enjoyed it. So that's what I kind of did yesterday. I ended up falling asleep doing that, but that's fine. Got a good night's sleep. Worked today, the regular job. Could not wait to get out of there today. Cannot wait to get the weekend started. Need to rest. Most definitely need to rest. But again, we didn't do the show yesterday, so it was fine. So no recap. I can't do a recap for you. So I'm going to ask you something. What if most of what you think you know about crime came from TV and it's wrong? What do you think about that? Now tonight, we're sitting down with someone who's actually lived it. Multiple police departments, corporate security at major institutions, and now writing crime stories rooted in real experience. We're talking about what investigations really look like, what Hollywood gets completely wrong, and they get a lot of it wrong, and why his latest book dives into militia groups operating right here in America. But, of course, as always, before we get into that, let's clear up some of the housekeeping stuff, and then we'll bring in our guest. So, folks, do me a favor. Head over to our website, joerooz.com, joerooz.com. And when you get over there, please open up that contact form. It's in the pancake in the upper right corner. Open that thing up and send us over a message. Let us know whatever's on your heart, whatever's on your mind, any questions, comments, cares, concerns, maybe a complaint. There shouldn't be, but maybe you have a complaint. Maybe you have a suggestion for a guest or a particular topic you'd like us to discuss on the show. We would love to hear from you guys. So use the contact form, send it over to us if you want to, all right? I say that because there's a CAPTCHA thing on it, and the CAPTCHA things drive me crazy, and I know it drives everybody else crazy. I am not the only one who's tired of matching the puzzle piece or finding the crosswalks and the lights and the buses and the bicycles and the motorcycles and the cars and you name it. Tired of it. So with that in mind, you can always email me directly at info@joerooz.com. That's info@joerooz.com. Also, you could leave a comment down below on Rumble and on YouTube. If you're still sitting there on YouTube, you can go there and do that. But we love to get your comments. We love to get your questions. So send them on over to us. Let us know what you're thinking. Also, please don't forget that this is a live show, weeknights, 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Our Saturday show every other Saturday with our resident crypto psychic, Marissa Lee, where we talk about everything cryptocurrencies. We're getting back on that schedule. We'll be back on that schedule next month. So stay tuned for that. A lot of real serious developments in the crypto world that we're going to be talking about. So really excited about that. It's been a bit, so looking forward to it. Then, of course, we have our Sunday show, our Sunday Bible study show, every Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. Central Time. And, of course, as you remember, we've been going through the book of Revelation. We started 6 weeks ago. And we will be getting into Revelation chapter 6, but not this weekend. Do you know why? Do you know what this weekend is? That's right. It's Palm Sunday. So we'll be doing a Palm Sunday message. So we'll be talking about all things related to Palm Sunday. And I'm looking forward to it, actually. We kind of sometimes, when you're doing a series like Revelation, it gets a little heavy. And, sometimes you need a little break. You step away from it a little bit, kind of refresh, and then go back to it. And but we won't be back into it for 2 weeks because you got Palm Sunday this week, and then next Sunday is Resurrection Day, Easter Sunday. And so we'll be doing a message about Resurrection Day. So we're looking forward to that as well. But we'll be back to Revelation the following week. So a little bit of a break. Good thing, never a bad thing. All right. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the show with your friends, your family, and your followers. That way you'll help us to spread the word about this show. I mean, we need to get more traction, and we have been. It's been going well. So let's keep it going. Boost the algorithm. That's the key thing here. Algorithm, algorithm, algorithm. So boost the algorithm, share the show, like the show, subscribe to it, tell your friends about it, and help us grow. All right? We really would appreciate that. All right. Well, with all of that said, let's take the banner down. I don't think we need that now. All right. Now, with all of that stuff said, our guest tonight is Brian Brady, a former police officer who served in multiple departments across 2 different states before moving into corporate security, where he held executive roles with organizations like NBCUniversal, San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, and others. Now he's taken all of that real-world experience and turned it into crime fiction that's grounded in what actually happens, not what Hollywood tells you. His latest book, Still Waters Run Deep, shifts from the streets of San Francisco into the rural American West, where a violent militia group is trying to carve out its own territory. Hey, Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
This is great, man. I was looking forward to this when I was reading up on your bio and I was reading about the book. And this sounds really, really interesting. I'm looking forward to talking to you about it.
Great.
Getting to know you a little bit more. So this is another brother in arms here. So Brian served again in multiple law enforcement agencies. We had Tom Lee on the show a couple nights ago, Texas Deputy Sheriff Sergeant, with some great stories. This is great. It's a nice trend. I like this. I like this. I want to do this more often. I want to get more brothers in arms over here on the show and talk about the things that affect all of us. But before we get into all the serious stuff, Brian, I want to ask you a couple of quick questions just to get started here. All right. What's something you are stubbornly particular about?
You gave me that question ahead of time, so
Yes,
I had a time to prepare. But I would say a bully. I think that's one of the reasons a lot of us go into law enforcement is the underdog, to be the go-between, to see to it that somebody doesn't get walked all over. And I think that carries over into business, into you watch a supervisor how they treat a subordinate just because they have the power.
Yes.
And so I think that, for lack of a better word, that really pisses me off when you see that happen. So I think I'm fairly stubborn on making sure that doesn't happen, and that people treat people right. There's that whole thing, when you praise in public and you critique in private, and I think that really holds water.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. I agree with that model 100%. I used to tell my guys when I was in uniform, I'll defend you tooth and nail publicly. Right or wrong, whether I think you're right or wrong, I will defend you publicly, tooth and nail. But afterwards, we're gonna have a talk.
Yeah, out of public view, and yet when it's done that way, it's just done to humiliate. There's no training involved. There's no learning. You're just making people upset, and it's a bad You're taking a bad situation and making it worse.
Absolutely, and you're demoralizing the officers involved. You're just, a lot of them will just completely shut down at that point.
Absolutely.
And I've seen that happen, unfortunately. I had some good officers that I knew, that I came up with, that I went through the academy with, had an experience like that where they got berated publicly, and that was it. That they shut down completely, and they just kind of drifted off into obscurity within the service. So it's a fine line to walk, but you got to walk it carefully.
Yeah.
So what's a simple pleasure people underestimate?
Driving a performance car.
Okay. All right.
I have
elaborate.
My youngest son is a car buff, and driving simulators and all of that sort of thing. And he got me kind of hooked on. I bought a Chevy SS, which is a little bit of an odd car. Chevrolet imported them from 14 to 17. They were actually made by a company called Holden in Australia, the Holden Commodore. And they're, in essence, a four-door Corvette. It's got the LS3 engine, and mine has a 6-speed manual transmission, and they have a staggered tire. And I had the opportunity to take it on the track up at Sears Point, where they run the NASCAR and the series up there, and went through a day with a driving instructor, and actually got to drive the car at its potential, or as much as I could do at its potential on the track. So I think that was a really great experience. I really had a great time.
So performance cars. You're the second person to answer that question. I told you before that I asked other guests this week these questions, and I got some really interesting answers. Another guest, interestingly, a law enforcement guy, said driving. He didn't specify a performance car, but he just mentioned driving in general. So I think it's a theme because I kind of agree with it.
Well, I do like to drive. As an example, when we were doing research for the book, my wife and I got in the car and we left San Francisco, and we drove up to Idaho and into Montana and Wyoming, and made the circuit all through there, and stopped at various locales and talked to people. I have a good friend up in Bozeman, and we spent time with the sheriff's people up there. And so doing the research, it gave me an opportunity. So we drove about 4,000 miles in the course of the trip. Wow. And I was fortunate enough when I was in LA at Universal, I had a Porsche for a short period of time. It was a divorce casualty, but it was a great car. Great car to drive.
Sorry to hear that, man. I'm really, that hurts. All right. Well, listen, before we already covered that. What am I doing? So your background. Let's talk about your background a little bit. So you started off as a police officer. What originally pulled you into law enforcement?
Actually, it was a neighbor. I grew up in San Francisco. I was born and raised. And one of my neighbors was a San Francisco police officer, became a San Francisco police officer. He's a few years older than me. And he would come by. He had gotten married, moved away, but his mom and dad still lived on the block.
Okay.
So he would come by, and he would come by sometimes in his patrol car if he was stationed at one of the stations close by. Or when he went to investigations, he'd come by with his partner in the plainclothes. And I think, you want to say, when someone says, "Why did you go into law enforcement?" I did it to protect and serve, and lots of noble, I just thought it looked pretty cool. I thought it was, that was a pretty good gig driving that plainclothes car. So I think he was probably instrumental in that part. And then as I got older and I applied for police jobs, I had been accepted in San Leandro and Berkeley. So I was torn between the two departments. So I called him and I asked him, where should I go? And he said, go to Berkeley. He said, their investigation system, you'll learn more there as how to investigate than you will anywhere else. So I ended up going to Berkeley, and that's where I started my career.
Interesting. My when I went into law enforcement, just to answer my own question, because you said something interesting about just thought it was cool. So I had two things that actually prompted me to do this. One, when I was a kid, my grandfather had taken me for a walk with him up on Avenue U in Brooklyn, and there was a beat cop, standing on his post, and he knew my grandfather. My grandfather knew him, and he took his 8-point hat off and he put it on my head, and I was hooked at that moment. I felt like I had so much authority. I was like so powerful. I was like, that's one.
Well, and I had an uncle on SFPD, and Jack, my mentor, he was SFPD, but I had an uncle who was on the mounted unit in San Francisco. Now that's a cool job.
It is. It is. I always looked at that. That has to be the best job to do. I mean, you get to ride a horse all day. I mean, that's to me, that's great. I would love to do that.
And since you had spent time in New York, the mounted unit in New York, they look great. They wear that double-breasted leather coat with the brass buttons and the jodhpurs. They look squared away.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And the thing is, it's a PR job too. I mean, not only do you do law enforcement, but people just gravitate to the police dog, the police horse. They really like the animals. And I had a good friend who Oakland went to horses. They were doing a whole redevelopment in new business area, et cetera. And they put a mounted, I think there were 6 horses out there. And all the business people could tell you the names of all 6 horses, but I don't know that they could identify the riders.
That's the way it is, though. The horses are more interesting anyway.
Yeah.
So that's fine. My agency had a mounted division also, and we also had a harbor patrol. Mm-hmm. And so I actually qualified harbor patrol, and I worked on the harbor patrol for about a year and a half, I think it was, which was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun too, and especially when you work overnights. And you get
I think the best job in San Francisco is being a firefighter on the fireboat.
Yeah, I think so too.
That's a great job.
So, and the other reason why I went into law enforcement was because when I was 17 or 18, I was dating some girl, and she thought I would look really cute in uniform. So, why not?
It's a good reason as any.
I got my first security job, and put the uniform on, and that was it. It's all good to go. But now you worked in different departments. What did you learn from moving around that much?
Well, Berkeley was probably the unique learning experience. Berkeley's a unique city. It's got a little bit of everything, and I was a patrolman and a sergeant there, and then people don't know, I don't think, that Berkeley was probably the leading law enforcement agency from probably the early 1900s on. Berkeley was the first department to use a lie detector. The first department to have, even before the FBI, they had an MO file. They were the first department to have motorcycles. They were the first department to have radios in patrol cars. They were the first department to have dogs.
Really? I didn't know that. That's amazing.
And they had August Vollmer, who's considered the father of modern policing. And so he started the School of Criminology at UC Berkeley. So it's been a trendsetter. And so it was a great place to learn, and the traditions that you became a part of. Integrity was a huge cornerstone of the department. And I've kept that throughout my career. It was instilled in you early on, and it stayed with me. So after almost 10 years there, I took a test and took a lieutenant's job in East LA in the city of Baldwin Park, and city of about 85,000 out in East LA. Stayed there a couple of years, and then moved to New Mexico. I saw a job advertisement for a captain's job in Farmington, New Mexico. Mm-hmm. And I said, I'll put in for it. So a good friend of mine's wife was from there. So she filled me in a little bit on the town. And so I got the job. So I was there for 4 years. And then I wanted to come home. So I saw that Novato, which is just north of San Francisco, was advertising for a captain. So I came back home, took that job, and stayed there, and ultimately became chief and served as a chief for about 12 years.
Did you find it very different doing police work in a big city setting compared to a smaller town?
The work's the same. The volume is different, and you have in the smaller department you have a little more time to spend with people. It's not quite call to call, mm-hmm. where sometimes like in Berkeley there were times when you would pick up on a shift. You could pick up 5 to 7 felony investigations. And so you weren't spending as much time as maybe you'd like to with people. And in East LA was the same thing. It was busy. We had, when I was there, it was heavily gang influenced. This is going back into the late 70s, early 80s, and the street gangs in LA County were pretty significant. And our community had 2 rival gangs that kind of split the community. And we had, believe it or not, for a city of our size, we had 125 shootings in 10 months.
Wow.
Yeah, it was Dodge City. So that was a very different from Berkeley. We had shootings in Berkeley, we had bombings, we had all kinds of things, but not quite that number. So it was, and then New Mexico was different again. That the people are people, but they the lifestyle, just the way folks treated folks, it was different from where I was previously, and I liked it. I had a great time there, and the department was a really good department. Coming from California, where we pride ourselves on being a really good police departments and with posts, et cetera, we're well trained and all of that. I was pleasantly surprised. Farmington was a really well trained, well put together department.
Now, just from a crime perspective, how different are those environments, like Berkeley, San Francisco, New Mexico?
Like I said, it really doesn't change. It's all there. It's just a matter of the volume. You're going to have a shooting here and a shooting there. In LA, we had 100 shootings, where in Berkeley we have fewer. In New Mexico, we have fewer yet. So it really comes down, I think, to volume. Just the
Okay.
people are people. They're going to do what they're going to do, and a little different kinds of crime. I mean, that was the first time when I went to New Mexico, that was the first time I ever worked in snow. So that was a unique experience.
It is.
Yeah, and we didn't get the heavy snows. We'd get 6 inches of snow, and then it would be gone in a day or two.
Mm-hmm.
But there was that time when you got the road snow packed, and that became a real adventure.
Now, at what point did you decide to leave police work and move more into corporate security?
Well, the really simple answer is I maxed my pension. I had 35 years, and in California, without going into great detail, in California we have CalPERS, which is the Public Employees Retirement System, and virtually every city except like LA, who has their own system, belong. So as a consequence, your pension is in the same system. That allows you to move from department. So that's why I was able to go from Berkeley to Baldwin Park and still stay in the same pension. And then when I came back from New Mexico to California, I went back into the system. I bought back my time and stayed. So that allows you that flexibility. So I had reached a point where I was donating time instead of making money. And so I took a friend called me and said that Universal was looking for a replacement for their head of security. He'd been there years. So he put me in touch with him, and we talked, and we hit it off on the phone. And I went down there, interviewed with him, and then interviewed with the president of the studio operations, and we seemed to get along okay, and I got the job. So it was really just good luck.
Yeah. So when did writing first start to come into the picture for you? Was it always there, or was it something that just came about a little bit later on?
Definitely later. And it really came about. There was always, in the course of your career, there's always great stories. There's good cases you can investigate. There's humorous calls. In law enforcement, we see people at their best, their worst, sometimes their funniest.
Everything in between. Yeah.
So, and I had actually kept track of some of that stuff and just put a folder together and just threw things into it. And talking with friends, you'd share a story with somebody, and their response was, "God, that's great stuff. You ought to write that down. You ought to write a book." And I thought, well, I don't think I'm going to write a book. And then when I left the museum, and I was doing some consulting work with a security firm, and still do, and I had time. I dug the file folder out and started trying to put a couple of stories together, and that's really where it came from.
Now you've seen crime from the inside. How much of what people believe about investigations is just flat out wrong?
Probably most. And I think what happens, and having the opportunity to work in the entertainment business and television and with movies, they're limited. And I know, I say this because we go to a crime scene and you're going to collect evidence. Maybe it's going to be a blood spatter. It's going to be something where you get DNA. On television, you get a blood spatter and it goes to the CSI person, and they drive off and they come back 20 minutes later with the results. It doesn't happen that way. But I understand on a TV show, if it's an hour show, it's in reality about 43 minutes because of commercials and everything else.
Right.
So they've got to solve a triple homicide in 43 minutes. Well, they can't wait 3 weeks for a DNA sample. So everything's condensed. And I think that's probably what happens on TV. It's not that it's bad or poorly done, it's condensed. And in doing so, it makes it a little unrealistic. And then you also have things on television where you have somebody who's a beat cop in uniform all of a sudden is handling a complex investigation down the road someplace. It doesn't work that way. I mean, there are people who are assigned to those details. The hero just doesn't get to pick and choose. So that's part of the deal too. That there is a pecking order and a chain of command. You just don't go out there on your own.
Yeah, that's something that you see a lot in a lot of TV shows, a lot of movies. Where, like you said, the beat cop all of a sudden is now this high-profile investigator who has all the resources of the department at his disposal, and is tracking down, leads and so on and so forth, which is really not the case.
No, and I also love the insubordination on TV where the lead character is unhappy with someone's decision.
Always.
And either goes off on their own, completely ignores their boss, and there's no repercussion. I know when you ignore your boss, there's repercussions.
Yeah, and sometimes it's pretty swift, and sometimes it's a little delayed, but still, those repercussions come, man.
They're an educational experience. Let's put it that way.
For sure, without a doubt. Now, you kind of already answered this one, so I'm talking about things that are never really portrayed accurately in movies. But so aside of investigations and things like that, what else could you tell us about police work that's never really accurately portrayed?
Well, I think the most obvious right now is the CSI, and the CSI show, the original one that was in Vegas, that was filmed on Universal's lot, and the people who were in that show, they were great. They were the nicest people, and they were easy to work with. And William Peterson, who was the lead, I remember telling him that the set for the medical examiner's office, where the autopsy room, I said that was the nicest autopsy room I'd ever seen that was on the set. And they were able to do great things, and CSI can do great things. Don't get me wrong; they're terrific, and they've changed. I mean, DNA has just totally changed law enforcement, and they do a wonderful job. The trouble is, those shows, there's an expectation now on the public's part that you can get evidence, and you're just going to show up, and it's magically going to happen. And
right.
Unfortunately, there isn't always a lot of DNA. There isn't always hair and fiber and fingerprints and all the other things you'd like to have. And I think the shows create a little bit of a false expectation. And sometimes then as a beat cop, you go out and take the report. And the poor victim wants to know when's the CSI man going to get there? So I'm sorry, they took your wallet out of the glove box of your car. I don't really think we're going to bring out forensics people. But there's an expectation that's going to happen.
Yeah, there was a movie. It was The Big Lebowski. I don't know if you've ever seen that one.
Oh yeah.
Where his car was stolen, or items were stolen out of his car, and they were just mocking him at the at the impound yard. Yeah, we're gonna get they're gonna have the whole SWAT team working on this for you. You know, it's yeah.
You can do things though. When I was one of the departments, where I was working, I was the head of or in charge of the patrol division. So I made an investment in the relatively small fingerprint kits. And they think that they probably got like 6 or 7 different kinds of powder and 2 or 3 brushes, that sort of thing. And the cards and the tape. And I put them in all the cars. And I told the officers, so when you go to the scene, like what you're talking about with an auto burglary, where somebody or they handle the glove, take the kit out, dust it. I mean, it makes the person feel great. It's a great PR tool. And every once in a while, you might even get a print. I mean, who knows? You may get lucky, but having it right there, it satisfied the customer. It was great PR, and every once in a while we caught somebody.
Yeah, it's funny you satisfying the customer. That's it's the way it is.
That's the business we're in.
Exactly.
And sometimes we forget that. That the customer satisfaction. You get enough bad customer satisfaction, you're going to have trouble getting a raise. You're going to have trouble getting good legislation passed through. You're going to have, if the community is behind you and supports you, it makes the job easier and allows your recruiting easier, and ultimately everybody benefits. And it's not tough.
No, you're right. And it's like I think back now out of all of the trainings and everything that we had to go through, how many times did they refer to it as customer service training? And it never really, doesn't really click in your head until later on. When you have a conversation like this and you hear dealing with the customer, you realize, that's exactly what it is. It's a business, and that's the way they approach it. This is what we do. It's our business.
These are our clients. Yeah. And the name of the game is make the client happy.
Exactly.
Do what you can. And there's going to be those cases where the frustrating part is there are times when you really can't help somebody. I mean, you can be there, you can do, but in your heart of hearts that you're probably not going to catch this guy. And one of the reasons I think that homicide investigations are usually so much more successful and the clearance rate is so much higher is we put the resources into it.
Right.
I mean, if you think about what goes into a criminal investigation on a murder, if you took all of the resources that went into that and put them into that stolen wallet from the glove box, I bet you could find it.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's very true. Now, how did your experience in corporate security change the way you think about threats and risk?
And you became probably more conscious of it in the corporate side because at NBCUniversal, well, at first it was Universal when I went there. Mm-hmm. And the company was bought by General Electric, and then it was ultimately General Electric already owned NBC. So they merged NBC and Universal into one company.
Right.
And then later Comcast bought the company, and Comcast still owns it. The difference was that I had responsibility for a 400-acre movie lot with sound stages and office buildings and about 10,000 people working there, and an amusement park, Universal Studios Hollywood, with millions of people coming through every year with all of the myriad of problems that they bring with them, language issues, people visiting, and all the things that can happen in a park. Even simple, well, not simple if you're the victim, but a medical emergency. How do you deal with that? All the things that have to happen. And then when you have a movie production that's in another country, like for instance, we shoot the Bourne movies. That that's the Universal franchise, and they shot all over the world. So, and the people at the production site, they don't take into consideration when they're phoning you. There's a time difference. That they're calling you in Morocco at a certain time, and it's 3 a.m.
Right.
And so you become very conscious of where your teams are going, where the productions are going, and the regional security are the RSOs for the State Department and are a godsend. They save my bacon more times than I can tell you. And they were the first ones I went to when we were going to go to a country or city in the Middle East or Africa or wherever. first phone call was to the RSO, and
Right.
I got to know those folks. Communicated with them regularly, and they were fantastic, absolutely fantastic, and they like doing it. I mean, for some of them, being at the side of a movie production was really fun. It was something that most people don't get to do. So they had basically, we gave them free run of the place.
Yeah, I remember being on movie sets, on movie shoots around New York City, and after a while though, you do a couple of them, and it's like, oh, it's no big deal. This is.
You find out in the business, the entertainment business, you find that there's, you have your A-list celebrities, and I can honestly say I spent 10 years there, and the A-list people that we dealt with were great. I can't think of an A-lister that was problematic or rude or any of the things that you hear about people. Their personal assistants were another story. Because they tend to travel thinking they have the same clout as the boss. And they can sometimes, going back to the bully, they want to be, tell people what to do, etc.
Right.
And so they could be problematic. But the actors, no, they were terrific. They were easy to work with.
Yeah, I liked it when I first started doing them. I had a good time on the sets, and it was you do get a little starstruck too. You see some of these big name people, and all of a sudden, but once you've done a few of them, it's like, all right, it's really no big deal. I don't find myself getting impressed by the celebrity anymore. It's been like that for a while for me.
Yeah, I think you get used to it, and where we were, it was an everyday occurrence. People were on a lot. And then every fourth year, we drew the Emmys. So NBC Universal would have them, then CBS, then ABC, then Fox. So you were responsible for everything going on at the Emmys, from parking to the red carpet to the after party to whatever. So when you said being starstruck, probably the most starstruck you would get is when you're down working the red carpet on one of those events, and
right.
Some of the obviously most gorgeous women in the world are passing by, and that you've only seen on TV screens, and that's a little bit of a starstruck situation.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I would agree. So now when you write and you write investigative characters, how much of those characters are actually based on people that you really worked with?
All of them.
Really?
They're all bits and pieces. I mean, some of them I actually named after people I've worked with. And I've had some fun doing that. Writing crime fiction, I mean, I like the genre. The other option is true crime, and there's nothing wrong with true crime. They're great stories, but for me, the true crime stories, that they tend to focus on. There's one investigation, and what they're doing is they're taking it from the occurrence all the way through the conclusion, maybe court or however it turns out, and the focal point of the whole story is that investigation, the step by step, which can be methodical and sometimes boring, and etc. My books they use real crime situations, and sometimes the story will be a composite of a few crimes put together. But the focal point is the investigation, but it's character driven. So you get to have these, I hope, are likable, relatable characters that people want to read about. And you develop your character, they become more complex, as opposed to just being an investigator doing this. You get to put their personal life into it. You get to put, and that gives you a lot of latitude to play with, making the character believable. I think Michael Connelly with Harry Bosch and the Lincoln Lawyer and the stuff that he's done, he's a master at hooking you with the character. And I've had an opportunity to meet him, and he's a super nice guy, absolutely a real gentleman, and incredibly talented. I want to be Michael Connelly when I grow up. That's he has sold 90 million books.
Wow.
Yeah,
really?
I mean, that's just astronomical. So again, character driven. And a good story, a good story that people can follow through, and include in the story the monotony. include in the story some of the boring parts that you got to fill in while you're waiting for something to come back, something come back from the lab, something come back from AV, something to come back from wherever. So I think, and you know, you also have the opportunity in crime fiction to write people into the story that you don't like in real life and make them really bad people. And as long as you have that disclaimer in front of the book that says, you know, it's purely coincidental. If somebody actually, so they don't know who they are. So
that's true. That's very true. I like that. That's a good. That's good. I like that. You can do all kinds of things with them.
You certainly can. But that disclaimer is a lifesaver.
So let me ask you this: have you ever had to pull back on the realism because it would be too unbelievable for readers?
Not so much unbelievable, but gruesome.
Okay, the graphics,
and I don't want to do that. I don't want to make the focal point a gruesome crime. You can't have a murder mystery without a murder. I mean, you got to start, but it shouldn't be graphic. You know, you can write somebody getting shot, somebody getting stabbed, and you can do it in a paragraph. Mm-hmm. I mean, and I, you know, without picking on people, but I'll pick on Quentin Tarantino for a minute. Sometimes Quentin Tarantino's scenes, for instance, in Inglourious Bastards, the scene where the soldier, they have the German soldier captured, and he comes after it with the baseball bat, and he kills him. Now, the first probably 3 swings were enough. You know, 25, 26, 27 was probably over the top. But so I want to stay away from that part. And because some of the stories are real, and if you know the story, and if, let's say, you were a family member, you would know the story, and you say, well, that sounds like what happened to my sister. That, you don't want to put the family through reliving something horrible. Sure. Yeah. So you want to make it important in the story, your kickoff point, and then you want to move away from it and get into the characters and into the investigation. But you got to have it. You just don't have to make it horrible, gruesome, and graphic.
No, that makes sense. And yeah, as a family member, I'm sure they would appreciate that. I totally understand that.
Yeah, and then, you know, one of the family member may never read the book, you know, for all I know. But if someone did, I just don't want to put somebody through, you know, reliving something that was probably the worst time in their life. Yeah,
I agree with that. Now, so let's shift into your book a little bit, since we kind of laid the groundwork here. So tell us about the book. So Still Waters Run Deep. Tell us about it.
It's a departure book for me. It's my first 3 books were all about San Francisco, SFPD homicide, and they take place in the city and around the city. and I have my characters that the books can stand alone, but read in sequence, there's more character development where they move from book to book. So this book's a whole new set of characters. It's a whole new set of detectives. It's a whole new area that I'm not familiar with, so I had to go up and get familiar with it. And so it was a little bit harder to write, only from the standpoint that it took more research, took more time to get the information. But once I got going, it kind of flowed. I enjoyed it. I like the writing part. I have fun doing that. And there's a lot of information out there. You just have to go out and dig. And it's like with AI, you know, there's pros, there's cons. And when you're writing, AI is a great research tool. I mean, it's basically Google on steroids.
True.
And, you know, so you just can't use it to write your book. I mean, I think that's really cheating at that point. And frankly, the Copyright Office, when you send your material back to Washington to have it copyrighted, they've got an algorithm, a very good one, that'll pull out AI, and they won't copyright your material.
Interesting.
So, which I think is great.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic.
And there's a group of writers right now that are pushing really hard to form like a certificate that will say the book has been deemed non-AI generated. So do you know when you pick it up that someone actually wrote it and not a computer?
How many books do you think are out there right now that are AI written?
Probably not a ton, but they're going to be coming. I mean, when you write a book, I mean, anyone can write a book. And if you want to publish your book, you can go to Amazon, and for minimal amount of money, you can get your book published. Mm-hmm. No one's ever going to see it. And that's one of the drawbacks. Amazon publishes about 1 million books a year, or a little more than that. So you become one of 1 million. And so there's a lot of people out there that are authors at 1 million books a year. And I've done book signings, and I'll get questions from people, they don't want to buy the book. They want to find out how they can publish their book, which is okay. I mean, you're still engaging customer service. You're still engaging with people, and maybe they'll walk away and tell somebody, "Gee, I met this guy who wrote a book, and he was a nice guy." Somebody else might buy the book, but a lot of people want to know. Well, I've written something, and how can I? And it's a dog eat dog world out there. I'm telling you, in publishing, there's a lot of fly by night publishers out there that will take your money and they're gone. So it's interesting. But getting back to the story, I got material from a number of sources, and there's excuse me, there's a bunch of different kinds of militia groups. There are some that are anti-everything, some that are criminal, some that are more probably libertarian, for lack of a better word, that just want to be left alone. They don't want any government. And it's not that I don't like this government or that government. I don't like any government. I just want to be in. So without trying to, single out any one particular, I went with the bad guy group. I went with the people who were engaged in a criminal enterprise, and they had some lofty goals, but the means to the end were pretty bad. So I think that makes it an easier read, and it doesn't offend. I hope that people can read it and enjoy it, and the story will flow and resonate without saying I'm going to write this book and condemn this group or whatever. I'm not. That wasn't what it was about.
Now, but what made you decide to explore that world of militia groups?
Actually, I went to a meeting, and Maurice Deese, who was the head of the Southern Poverty Law Center, was there, and he spoke. And I had an opportunity to sit down and talk to him afterwards. We actually went and had a cup of coffee together. And he gave me some information, and he was really interesting. And then I wrote to the center, and I got a ton of information from them. And then Timothy McVeigh came along, and the Oklahoma City bombing. And he was part of a Michigan militia group. And there were a group up in Idaho, family who was involved in some pretty nefarious activity. And armored car robberies became the crime du jour. So it was just a matter of doing the research, and then I thought it made a good story. I thought the thing, and then I had my two detectives from Casper, Wyoming, to be my protagonists and follow them in their journey through this morass that they had to go through. And I was able to bring in federal agents. Obviously, the real life part. No two detectives from Casper are going to solve an armored car robbery that actually occurred in Montana.
Right.
They're going to hear about it, but they're not. It's going to be FBI that's involved. It's going to be ATF depending on if they blast the doors off the armored car. So it's going to become very complex. And I wanted to put that in the book too, that it's not simple, that there's a lot of moving parts, and there's some parochial pieces to the puzzle where people are getting their toes stepped on and not really happy about it. And everyone's got to play nice. Everybody's got to play nice, and it doesn't always happen.
Now, how much of the book is actually inspired by real, true events, or is this stuff that you've seen personally?
No, not personally. I mean, I have had really no personal dealings with militia groups. Okay. It's all done through research, but the events, several are real and are based on fact. A couple are editorial license, and probably exaggerated a little bit for emphasis, but scaling it back a little bit, it's accurate. It's what happened, but just making it bigger for the story.
Now, you mentioned that you got a lot of information from the Southern Poverty Law Group. What kind of research would you do? What kind of research did you get that went into portraying this violent militia group?
They've got tons of statistical data on militia groups. They've got tons of data on, for instance, crimes that have occurred in rural areas, crimes in urban areas, crimes in cities of over this number, counties of under that number. And they've compiled a ton of information. And the FBI too. I mean, I used the NIJ statistics from the Bureau, which are, they're pretty good. They're, actually, they're better than pretty good. They're very good. And the only problem with the FBI's numbers are the fact that not every law enforcement agency has to report. So you're missing a few, but the vast majority do. And as a consequence, the FBI database is fantastic. And you can go online and look up crime data. I mean, there's a ton of stuff out there. It's just a matter of just going out there and looking for it.
How many different militia groups did you research for the book? Probably,
I don't know, maybe 15 to 20. And then once you have the statistical data, then it's a matter of going online and looking when someone's mentioned. Then it's going to newspaper articles and reading about, because sometimes it'll be the best story might be in Casper, Wyoming Star. And, you're going to have to go find that paper online, and hopefully it is, and you can read the story. And then that gives you some more realistic data, and then you can start compiling. And so basically, there's a lot. Without trying to say, it's a ton of research. There's a lot of research, and for me, it was a lot because I had left my comfort zone, and the San Francisco stuff is, fairly easy. I know that when I have a situation, I'm not going to write two north-south streets that intersect in San Francisco. Right. I know the streets. But if I write that the bad guy pulled off at a truck stop a quarter mile from the intersection of I-25 and something outside of Casper, well, it may be there, it may not be there. And if somebody from Casper reads it, the first thing they're going to do is go, this clown doesn't know what he's talking about. There's no truck stop there. Well, so I drove up there and I drove those streets, those roads that I mentioned in the story, and I know there is a truck stop there, right, quarter mile north of. So it adds an element of realism, I think, and it validates the story. Sure. So you don't want something, and I know personally from reading, and I read a lot, if you hit a mistake in a book, I mean, a technical glitch, glaring error, I find I spend the rest of the story, the rest of the novel, looking for the next one.
I do that too.
Yeah, and so you, as an author, you've lost your reader. They're not reading your story anymore. They're just looking for more mistakes.
They're looking to edit your book for you.
Absolutely, and a shout out to the editors. They do, as a writer, and I think of myself as kind of a half-ass writer, that the editor who work on your stuff, they're lifesavers. They really are, and you have to have a thick skin. You send them your first 4 or 5 chapters, and maybe it's 50 pages, and you've written War and Peace. I mean, this is it. That this is going to be the New York Times bestseller.
All right.
And they send you back, 40 pages of corrections, and it's like. It was like being back in grammar school with the nuns, you turn your essay in and you get it back with a red pen all over it. So your first reaction is, "Ow, that hurt." But as you read what they're telling you, what they're suggesting, you find they're making your story better. They're really helping you.
Well, we also just want to clarify one thing, that when we're talking about militias here, we're not talking about state militias. We're not talking about like Texas state has a militia. A number of states have state militias. These are private groups.
Yeah, correct? These are and they're together, a group of people, and a common bond, a common goal, and sometimes those goals are illegal, and that's what I'm looking at, are people who are doing illegal acts and to further an illegal goal.
So with this book, what do you want the readers to walk away with thinking after finishing reading the book?
Well, it's got a couple of interesting little twists in it at the end. So I'm hoping that they stay hooked and enjoy the ride. And I'm not advocating. It's not, the whole story isn't to advocate for a position. It's really to make it an enjoyable read, and the good guy should win at the end. I'm kind of a big proponent of that. I'd like to see to it that, and I had this happen. I worked on another story. In the story I'm working on, I created a bad guy who was very, very meticulous and very, very good. And I kind of painted myself in a corner. I didn't have a way to catch him. So I had this, this conundrum of how do I catch this bad guy? So I had to spend time just trying to do that. So but I want the good guy to win. Somebody suggested to me, well, let the bad guy win in that story, and then you can do a sequel and maybe catch him in the second book. And I said, I don't think that's what you want to do. I want the good guys to win.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I would too. I would too. So I want to ask you. So in relation to the militias, and you through your research and such, given the tensions that are rising up within our country, from your perspective, are these militia? Do you see an increase in militia activity or the creation of militia groups?
Yes, I mean, and the research from the Southern Poverty Law Center, they'll tell you that there are more, and there are more, and I'm saddened by it personally. I'm saddened by it mainly because there are people who are so dissatisfied, so frustrated, that rather than voting, they want to get a gun and go in the woods and get several other people who feel the same way and do something bad. I think that's tragic, personally. I don't want to see that happen. I don't want to see a gun to determine an outcome.
Yeah, well, but the way things are going in the country right now, the country is so polarized. There's really no middle ground anymore that's at least visible. So in your estimation and based on the research you've done, do you think things are getting worse or they're just becoming more visible?
No, I think they're worsening. And maybe it is that there's more visibility, and that may be part of it. I'm sure it is. But
a combination of both.
Yeah, and we live in a world of instant gratification. With social media, I feel having worked with NBC, you have really good reporters out there, investigative reporters, and they don't file a story until they've done their work. But anybody with a cell phone, as something happens, I mean, it's on YouTube in 10 seconds. So that's difficult. And frequently the one that's on YouTube isn't necessarily accurate either. It's somebody's else. Who's to say what kind of camera person they were and what did they really capture? I don't know. We're all aware that when you see the video, it's maybe this or that, but it may not tell the whole story until you see all of the video.
I agree with you. Now, what's something about human nature that you've learned from your career that most people don't realize?
I think most people are decent. I think we tend to sometimes lump people into groups and dislike them. But I found that that most people, I think, deep down are okay. Sometimes you just got to peel the layers off the onion to get to the okay part. But I think most people are okay.
All right. Now, if somebody's watching, somebody's listening, what's one piece of advice you would give to someone who's looking to start out a career in law enforcement?
Good question. I think weigh the reasons that you want to do it. I mean, really, some real introspection. And what do I want to accomplish? What do I want to really do? I mean, you're not a gunslinger. I mean, TV portrays that. You have people involved in 3 shootings in an hour show. What is 90, really high 90-something% of law enforcement officers never get involved in a shooting, never shoot anybody. So that's not what's happening. And there's going to be a lot of boredom, a lot of routine, mundane. So weigh what you really want to do, what you really want to accomplish, and if it's still what you want to do, then go for it. Do it and do it well. We need good cops. We need good customer service people. We need people that treat clients well. And I think someone with that, if that's the driving force for them, then I think they're going to be just fine. And I'd like to see a bunch more like that.
I agree with you. Amen. Amen to that. So what's next for you? You sticking with with this new direction, or are you going to go back to original characters?
Good question. I've actually got a follow-up in my first characters, my San Francisco characters. It's almost finished. It's being edited, and I've got some of the research done for. I'm going to go back up to the woods. I kind of liked it, and I like my 2 detectives, so I'm going to expand them. I'm going to make them more likable, more lovable, and give them a good personal life to go along with it, and see if I can come up with something novel, some novel crime to investigate.
All right, that sounds good. All right, so before we wrap this up completely, who's someone that you respect right now? What are they doing that inspires you?
Well, there's a lot of people. I think probably one that jumps out is a guy named Jim Waters, who was the president of studio operations for Universal. And he's one of those people who, he came up through the ranks from working like a grip or to cameras, to set design, to production. I mean, there probably wasn't a job on that lot that he hadn't done. And he treated people fairly, and he treated people well. He was stern. He had expectations. They weren't unrealistic. And he was probably one of the most honest people, had great integrity. There's a lot of bosses that, talk the talk. And when somebody says, we would not tolerate a thief, but it was the vice president that stole something. Well, that's a little bit different than if it was the custodian. Well, sure. I was in his office when a vice president falsified an expense report, and he fired him on the spot. So he said, I won't tolerate it. So I have great respect for him. And he was a good person. He had a good heart, and his staff, all of us, we would do anything for him. He built a really cohesive team of people, and he just was special. Still is.
All right, outstanding. I like leadership like that. I do.
He was great. He had 9 o'clock staff meeting. At 9 o'clock and 1 second, he locked the door to the conference room.
Yeah,
what? At 8:45, everybody was in their seats.
Yeah, I'm sure they were. You did not want to get locked out of the meeting. I can only imagine what the repercussions of that would be.
So yeah, it was amazing. I only did that once.
Nice, perfect. That works. All right, Brian. So where can people go to find out more about you and about your work and get your book?
Sure. The books at Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Goodreads, and the website is goldengatetales.com. And there's information on the books. If someone has a question, I'll try and answer it. Can't necessarily get you back in 24 hours, but I'll get back to you. And so it's pretty all inclusive.
All right, outstanding. I know we have the website in our show notes already, but if you have a link to your Amazon page or wherever you prefer people to go buy the book from, just send it over to me, and we'll make sure we get that included in the post work.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Brian, I'm going to put you backstage. I'm going to wrap this baby up, and then we'll come back to you. We'll wrap up our end.
Thank you. I appreciate having me on.
Hey, this was great, Brian. Thank you so much. God bless you. I really appreciate the work you've done. Thank you for your service, sir. And, I look forward to having you back on again at some point.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. All right. All right, folks. Brian Brady, make sure you go to his website, check it out. Make sure you check out his book. Hope you guys liked that conversation. I really enjoyed that. The militia groups are out there. They are growing, and it's something to pay attention to. It really is. I heard something earlier today on a talk show that I was listening to, where they were talking about something very similar to it, and there are some potential issues with a lot of these illegal militia groups. All right, but let's not worry about that too much right now. The bigger problem is that liberal Christmas is right around the corner. April 15th, tax day. Got to file your taxes. Got to report to the government what you've been spending your money on. Right? They can spend it on whatever they want, but you make a questionable transaction of $20, and yeah. So the folks over at Diamond Dynasty Tax Group Legacy, these guys are great. They want to help you navigate your way through this liberal holiday season. So if you could, head over to them, check them out, give them a call at 830-867-7106. It's 830-867-7106. These folks, they did my taxes for me when I bought the asylum. They helped me through all of the paperwork involved with the renovations and and the building of the studio, all that stuff. They did a fantastic job, and actually they just let me know that they completed my tax returns for this year as well, and took care of it pretty quick and little stress, and they really got me a good return. So I'm very, very happy and very pleased with that. So give them a call, try them out, let them work their magic for you. Now, you don't have to be living here at Eagle Pass to do it, even though they're an Eagle Pass based business. You can use them wherever you are in the great state of Texas. So give them a call at 830-867-7106. It's 830-867-7106. All right. Shout-outs, of course, to our executive producers, Wayne Rankin, Rosanna Rankin, Carolina Jimenez, Marissa Lee, and, of course, the inestimable Anonymous Angela. Folks, these guys, we follow what we call a value-for-value model. Very simple. If you receive anything of value from the content we're putting out, all we're asking is that you return that value to us in the form of a donation. And that donation can be your time, your talent, or your treasure, the 3 T's. These folks donate their time, their talent, and their treasure. And we greatly appreciate it. There's a lot of stuff that we do that we wouldn't be able to do without their help. So greatly appreciate it. Now, if you want to find out ways about how you can help support the show, just head over to the website, joerooz.com/support. It's joerooz.com/support. And when you get there, you'll find all the different ways that you can help us out. And you never know. You might end up becoming one of our executive producers. One of the perks of being an executive producer for the show is that if you like, you get to come on the show with us, and you get to have a segment. We do that on Wednesdays with our Wednesdays with Wayne segment. And by the way, Wayne is extremely excited about coming on the show next because he has a great idea that he wants to bring to everybody and make it a regular segment. So I'm looking forward to it. We're working on the details of it, and we'll let you know when that's going to kick off. But try it out. Check out the website, joerooz.com/support. And if you can help us out, if you have the means to do it, we would really, really appreciate the support. All right. Now, so conversations like this, like we had tonight with Brian, remind you really quick that there's big difference between what we're told and what people actually experience. Brian Brady lived both sides, on the ground in law enforcement and at the executive level in security, and now he's telling stories that blur the line between fiction and reality. Whether you agree with everything we talked about tonight or not, getting perspective from someone who's been there is what really matters. And again, if you've gotten anything of value from this, please share it and let us know what you think in the comments, and that's how this message spreads. All right? Well, I think that should just about do it for us for tonight, folks. I think that's all I got, right? It better be, because the music started, so I guess that's it. All right, folks, don't forget to head over to the website, joerooz.com, go to our contact section, send us over a message, let us know what you think. Email me, info@joerooz.com, comments down below. We would really appreciate it. No show tomorrow. We'll be back here on Sunday, Palm Sunday, and we'll see you then. Until then, folks, make Texas independent again. Go podcasting, keep a steady stride, and more importantly, folks, keep talking. We'll see you on Sunday.